Peter Pan is the boy that never grew up. But what happens when the rest of Neverland does grow up? What happens when they all want simpler, happier lives, and Peter is the only one left seeking some sort of adventure? This is The Last Boy, number 1. Hello there, Geek Collective, and welcome to Geeks Plus Comics, more than just your average geek. I'm your host for today, Cross, and we are back with another comic book review for you today. And today we are actually checking out something that's brand new out from Boom Studios. We have not looked at something from Boom for quite some time. But when I seen that they were releasing an adaptation or a sequel of sorts to Peter Pan, my intrigue was definitely piqued, and I thought this was something that I had to check out. But just in case any of you don't know who Peter Pan is, Peter Pan is a fictional character created by Scottish writer J.M. Barrie. He first appeared as a character in Barrie's 1902 novel The Little White Bird, before going on to appear as the protagonist of a stage play that eventually became its own novel. The boy that lived in the magical land of Neverland could fly like a bird and never grew up, all while having adventures with pirates, mermaids, fairies, and Native Americans. From there, Peter Pan's story has been told by multiple people in multiple adaptations. Most famous and well known of these is likely the animated movie from Walt Disney. The Last Boy is also not the first to expand on the Peter Pan mythos. It's been expanded upon in movies, TV shows, animations, and books, telling a variety of origin stories, prologues, further adventures, and reimaginings of the character. But this is exactly why I wanted to check out The Last Boy, because there's been so many adaptations of Peter Pan. Some of them have been absolutely amazing interpretations, some of my favourites being the movie Hook, starring Robin Williams, which I grew up on and was totally taken with. I absolutely adored that movie as a kid. Other amazing adaptations that always spring to mind is the TV show Once Upon a Time and their reimagining of a darker Peter Pan. I mean, heck, there's even a horror movie coming out soon with Peter Pan as the main horror monster in it. And just reimagining the story as him as the slasher that kills children. It's like there are so many variants and adaptations. Some of them are really, really good. Some of them are absolutely awful. And I really wanted to see where The Last Boy fell in that spectrum of Peter Pan stories. But before we dive into it today, make sure to go down, do all the YouTube stuff. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of the amazing content coming from Geeks Plus Comics. Also, if you can hit that like button and leave a comment down below, it really does help us out and we greatly, greatly appreciate it. But for now, that's all I've got to say in our intro, so let's dive on in and get into The Last Boy, number 1. The Last Boy, number 1 is written by Dan Panosian. Artwork is by Alessio Avallone. Colours are from Valentina Pinto, with additional colouring from Agnese Pozza and Rick Mack, and lettering is done by Jeff Eckleberry. Our issue begins with Peter Pan. The narration tells us that Peter never liked a quiet afternoon. He wasn't a fan of the quiet in general, and things had been quiet for far too long. But all of that was about to change as Tinkerbell came to see him in his hideout, and she had some news of goings-on in Neverland. It seems that Captain Hook is up to his old tricks and has been stealing from the natives. Peter wants to have some evidence to dangle in front of Hook's face when he confronts him, so he takes off flying over Neverland and makes his way to the natives to talk to Chief Great Panther. We then take a break from Neverland and make our way over to London, England. The year is 1920. We meet an adult Wendy Darling sitting beneath a tree, reading a book to a group of children who are listening intently. She may be removed from her own adventures in Neverland, but some habits die hard. As she finishes the story, a young girl says that she wishes she could tell stories like that, but her teacher said that she would make a better seamstress. Wendy takes the opportunity to encourage the girl that there's nothing wrong with being a seamstress, but if she wants to write a story, then she can do that too, reminiscing on the stories that she herself used to create when she wasn't much older than this young girl is now. But before she can continue the conversation, Wendy is interrupted by her rather angry mother. Wendy is late to give her father his medicine, and her mom reminds her that he'll only take it if she is the one to give it to him. We don't find out what's actually wrong with her father, just that he is bedridden and that he's been prescribed medication to help him to feel better. After Wendy gives her father the medicine, her mother asks to speak with her. She says that she knows that her books and reading the stories to the children is something that she loves, but thinks it's maybe time for her to start focusing on her own family instead. And not just her current family, but her future family also. This is where we find out that Wendy is actually engaged to a man named Clifford, and they're meant to be in the process of planning their wedding. Wendy apologises that she's been in her own head lately, and has struggled to manage work and wedding planning. She tells her mom that she's almost finished with her manuscript for her book, and maybe they can put the wedding off for a few months until she's done. Her mother pleads with her, as she thinks that Wendy's fiance Clifford is quite the catch, but a man like that isn't accustomed to waiting that long, and she can't let him get away. Wendy says she'd love to discuss this further with her, but has a meeting with her editor, and quickly makes her exit, much to her mother's dismay. Wendy carries her manuscript through the streets of London with a tear in her eye. She finds herself at the docks, gripping the book and looking up at the sky, and for a moment her grey world has a hint of colour as she looks up and sees the second star to the right. But in a moment, reality once again engulfs her as a man comes up to her and informs her that he has terrible news. We return to Peter Pan and Tinker Bell in Neverland. Peter is examining a map of the island as the natives' camp has moved following the Great Fire battle, and he's struggling to remember exactly where it is. At this time, Tink decides to inform him that she may have exaggerated some of the details about what's happening between the natives and the pirates. However, Peter dismisses it, as things have been too quiet, and that means Captain Hook is obviously up to something. The details don't matter right now. Peter finally spots smoke coming from the natives' camp and makes his way there. The natives spot him flying in, and they seem to be very apprehensive at his arrival, stating that they knew it was only a matter of time. Peter meets with Chief Great Panther and informs him that he is aware of the rumours that Captain Hook has been stealing pelts from the natives, and as an honorary member of the tribe, he pledges to get them back and punish the pirates. Great Panther advises Peter that he hasn't been an honorary member since the Great Fire battle, and that he'll need to speak with the actual chief about the situation with the pirates, and calls another member of the tribe to go and get Chief Tiger Lily. Peter seems horrified at this revelation, stating that Tiger Lily can't be the chief, she's a girl. But before he continues his complaint, he soon finds himself face to face with a new chief. Chief Tiger Lily tells Peter that she's the chief, and the tribe have reached a trade agreement with Captain Hook and his pirates. They are now allies, and it has actually been this way for quite some time. Peter just can't seem to wrap his head around what he's hearing, and simply, he chooses not to. He chooses not to come to terms with it, but rather creates a different scenario in his head where Captain Hook has the whole camp running scared. He says that he will pay Captain Hook a visit and see that he pays, and when he returns, they'll talk about this whole Chief Tiger Lily situation. As Peter flies off, Tiger Lily looks up to the sky after him, and tears run down her cheek, and she wipes them away. We then make our way across Neverland to the waters surrounding Pirates Cove, and to the Jolly Roger. Captain Hook and his first mate Smee are having a conversation about the trade agreement with the natives. Smee tells Hook that the agreement is working out perfectly, And it looks like they can even build lodging for the pirates right off the coast of Pirates Cove like Hook had always dreamed about. Hook tells Smee that he's worried about the crew's welfare, as pirating is all they've ever known, but Smee assures him that the crew may be older, but are as hearty and resilient as they have ever been. But just as Smee looks out of the captain's quarters at the crew, he sees that they are currently dealing with a Peter Pan situation. The crew are determined not to let him near the captain, but Peter very quickly dispatches them, and severely injures some of them as the crew are much older than they once were, and are unable to fight against the young Peter Pan like they once did. Smee rushes out on the deck and tries to calm the situation, and literally shoo Peter away. Unfortunately, Peter is not in a listening mood, and instead cracks Smee with the butt of his dagger, and threatens to hurt him more if Hook doesn't show himself. For the first time we see Hook making an appearance in an attempt to stop the injuries to his crew. Hook is looking a lot older now, and it's clear that he has no interest or energy to deal with Peter's antics. Peter tells him to brandish his sword, and Captain Hook asks if Peter would like to call him a codfish. Okay, he's a codfish. Now can you just state your business? Peter's utterly confused at Hook's response, but Tinkerbell quickly reminds him of why he's here. Peter states that they need to pay for the stealing of the pelts from the natives. Hook is exasperated at this, stating that he does pay for them. He pays plenty and a pretty favourable deal for the natives, and that Chief Tiger Lily is a shrewd negotiator. Smee tries to back the captain up, stating that they made a deal and are retiring from pirating. They're a trade vessel now. Peter doesn't believe them, and thinks they are trying to pull another trick on him. He attacks Hook, forcing him to draw his sword, and even with his blade in hand, Peter is too skilled and too fast for the elderly Hook, and quickly defeats him. Peter still thinks that he's being lied to though, and that Hook's yielding is a trap to lure him in. Peter backs the captain onto the plank, and Hook begins to really fear for his life. He tells Peter not to do anything that he might regret and tries to tell him that he has won and they'll return the pelts. But the elder Hook loses his footing and falls off the plank. But Smee realises that there was no splash. Then all of a sudden, they hear the sound of ticking. The issue comes to a close, with Peter and the crew realising that Captain Hook fell off the plank and straight into the mouth of the ticking crocodile. And Captain Hook is no more. Hey there, Geek Collective. Did you know that Geeks Plus is also on Patreon? For as little as just $2 a month, you can also support us over on Patreon and get early access to all of our YouTube videos from Geeks Plus Comics, Geeks Plus Tabletop, and Geeks Plus Gaming, as well as a whole bunch of exclusive content specifically for our supporters over on Patreon, and early access to all the behind the scenes and ongoings with the company. So if you would like to check out all of that stuff and help support what we do here at Geeks Plus, we would greatly appreciate heading over to patreon.com/geeksplusmedia and supporting us over there. But that's all from me from now. You all have a good day, and let's get back into your video. What an introduction to the story in The Last Boy, and what a take on a sequel to the Peter Pan story. I really enjoyed this. I wasn't sure what to expect going in, but as someone who grew up on Peter Pan and grew up with those stories and grew up with, like, you know, the boy who'll never grow up and, you know, living in Neverland with the Lost Boys and stuff like that, it's very intriguing to read a story where the rest of Neverland has grown up, where the natives, the pirates, everyone he kind of runs into, there's almost like this, there's been this growing up and this moving on and this evolving happening in Neverland. Because the story in Neverland is always a case of people won't grow up. You go there, you stay the same age. You go there as a kid, you're a kid forever. You go there as an adult, like the pirates, you're just a pirate forever. As long as you stay in Neverland, you're going to be that age, you're going to be an adult forever. Excuse me. But the intriguing thought of the Peter Pan is staying the same age, he's still the same little boy that he always was. And that the rest of Neverland is almost tired. You know, it's like there's adventuring and there's fighting and there's battling and there's stopping the evil going on in the island, and it's like everyone's just kind of fed up of it. The natives after the Great Fire War, whatever that is, and I wonder if we'll find out about that, have settled down, and the chief is now Tiger Lily, who was this little girl, not too dissimilar to Peter's age. She's now running it, and running it well. The pirates are no longer pirating. All the pirates, including Hook, they're old. They've gotten older. Hook with his long white hair, and they're looking to make money from trading. And trading with the natives, which is doing really well for them. And they're hoping to settle down and essentially live out the last of their life. Like, just quite happily and content. And Peter Pan coming around is almost like an annoyance and a nuisance to them. Like, they can't fight him, they can't put up with him, and Hook is just fed up. Same with the natives, we see that they're fed up of it. And it's a really intriguing story. And you can almost see, like, Peter Pan, like, has never grown up. Not just in age, but in maturity and mentality, and he doesn't understand the world that's now around him. He was like, you know, the popular kid in school. He was cock of the walk. He was, you know, the best that there was. Everyone flocked around him, and he was the leader of it all. And now he's kind of just... It reminds me of the jock in high school who's at the top of their game. They're the quarterback. They're the best there is, and everyone's around them. Yeah, they're popular. They're amazing. And then they get into adult life and realise that they peaked in high school. It's like he peaked and everyone then moved on, and he's just stuck in this world before and hasn't grown up and evolved with it. And I don't think I've ever seen that take on Peter Pan before. The closest we've seen, I think, was in Hook, when Peter Pan grows up and has to then return to Neverland. But this type of story we've never really seen before. And it's really intrigued me. And then we also have the juxtaposition to that of Wendy in London, who has grown up, who has gotten older, who is trying to live life and live a normal life now. She's trying to be a writer and is still kind of her, but is also helping take care of her sick father, and is also about to get married and all this other stuff. And I love the juxtaposition of the worlds, because Peter's world in Neverland is beautiful and bright and colourful and fantastical, and her world is just grey and dull and boring. Except for that one moment where she goes to the docks and she looks up at the sky and she sees the stars, and she sees that first star to the right, or sorry, second star to the right, and the sky starts to go blue and colour starts to come in until reality like clamps back in around her. I'm really intrigued to see where this goes, because obviously like the two of them are disheartened in the worlds they're in. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And then at the very end, Peter goes from being an annoyance and a nuisance and just something they're trying to like just work around, to literally killing Hook, or setting up the situation for him to die, falling off the boat and into the croc's mouth. How will the pirates react to their captain being killed? How will the natives react to Peter killing their trade partner? How will Neverland react that has grown up and Peter hasn't, to Peter basically ending his longtime enemy? It's really hooked me, this story. It has honestly gripped me. And I'm really intrigued to see what they do with it. The writing in this is absolutely phenomenal. It's so well done. I absolutely enjoyed the story and the beats and the route that it was taken, and there is almost a hint of Peter being a bit of a villain as well. Like that opening page of Tinkerbell whispering in his ear what's going on, he almost has a vindictive smile, and we see it later on when we're on the boat. It's almost like an evil grin, it feels like. And we've only ever seen an evil Peter Pan a couple of times, but I've never seen it sadistically done. So I'm very intrigued to see where this story goes. The artwork in it as well is absolutely beautiful. I will be honest, I picked it up for the story. The cover art, I was not a fan of. It felt too, like they were trying to make it too realistic, and it came across as too uncanny valley for me a little bit, that front page. But I'm happy to say the artwork inside is not that. The artwork inside is so beautiful, so well done, and the colorists just rocked it because there is so much storytelling in the colours. Like I said about the difference between Peter's world in Neverland and Mary's world Wendy's world in England. Who the hell's Mary? I don't know who Mary. There's no Mary in the story. It's a phenomenal book to check out. If you are a fan of fairy tales, if you're a fan of Peter Pan, and if this was something that never crossed your mind to check out because you've seen a billion versions of Peter Pan, I would recommend giving this one a try. This one does something a little bit different, which with the amount of adaptations there has been, is very hard to do. But I've never seen a story told quite this way with it. And I think it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you grew up on Peter Pan and you're a bit older now. If you're in your teens, 20s and upward, and you grew up on Peter Pan, but you're starting to become more adult now and live that adult life, it kind of gives a different perspective on Peter Pan. It's like, it makes me think of watching something like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Ferris Bueller, when you're a teenager, is kind of like the cool kid doing all this awesome stuff, and then you go back and you watch Ferris Bueller as an adult, and it's Ferris Bueller as an asshole. It's just absolutely awful, and what he puts people through, and I'm like, you really want to see him get his comeuppance, and it never comes. With Peter, it's as you're a kid, yeah, Peter's great, he's doing all this stuff, woohoo, and then you become an adult, and I'm like, oh my goodness, he's an annoying little person. He's so getting on my wick, and he's causing so much chaos and trouble. It's just stop. So I would highly recommend checking this one out. I think the first issue will probably give you a feel if this is a series you want to continue picking up, but it's the first thing from Boom Studios in quite a while that I've thought I have to cover that and have to talk about it on the channel. So definitely go and check it out. I highly recommend it. But that's it for me for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this comic review. If you've not done so already, again, make sure you hit that subscribe down below. We've got amazing interviews and amazing reviews coming up for the next few weeks that are all slated and scheduled, and you don't want to miss out on them. I guarantee you. And then also as well, we are also sponsored, or at least an affiliate with BCW Supplies. So for all your comic collecting needs, we are linked. The link is down below, along with a code for 10% off any purchase with BCW. So if you need more storage boxes, more bags and boards, more anything that you need for your collectibles, go down and check it in the link down below. But I hope you have a great week, and it's a good week to be a geek. Take care. We'll see you all next time. Peace.